All right, in this second episode of the Bronco project, we're going to take a look at fixing the noise from the front end. I think it's the wheel bearings. We're going to tear it down and find out. Coming up on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name's Brian. Thanks for joining me. So welcome to another installment of the Bronco Bug Out project. And what we're going to do today is, you may recall me talking on the first video about one of the things that this front driver's side wheel was making a clicking noise, kind of like a playing cards in a bicycle spoke sound. And I think it is the wheel bearings. I jacked it up. There's a lot of play in this wheel. So we're going to talk about replacing these wheel bearings. I'm going to take you along with me. I'm not a professional mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, so we're going to be learning this together. I got a little bit of experience, but probably not as much as most of you guys. But let's talk real quickly about what we're going to need to do this. First of all, you need a lug wrench because you're going to have to take the wheel off, right? Second of all, you need a good jack. I've got here a 12-ton bottle jack. Now, I want to mention the folks at High Lift were kind enough to send me an off-road jack that I'm going to show you in another episode, so be looking for that, but it's not really appropriate for what we're doing right now. We want to get this thing up off the ground and work on it. So you need a good bottle jack, and then important, you also need some good jack stands. These are 3-ton jack stands. I'm thinking they may be big enough. Hopefully they are tall enough to get this thing up off the ground and securely support it while you're working on it, because you don't want it falling on you or any part of your body. So we'll also need to chock the back wheels. We'll take a look at that, but let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to try to do is go ahead and loosen up these lug nuts while the truck is sitting on the ground so that the wheel doesn't turn and you loosen them. Okay, you just want to kind of loosen them up and then, break them free. And I like a 4-way better than the little L-shaped ones that come with most trucks, just because you get a little more leverage that way. And we'll go ahead and make sure they're all going to come loose. And then we'll make sure the back wheel's chocked and we'll jack it up. There's a lot of grease here, which is a good sign actually. It's a lot better than finding it dry. So we're going to clean most of this off though and have a look at this. This thing uses some kind of special lock nut that I have to be able to get off there. I bought this tool for like 20 bucks. I've got some carb cleaner, so I'm gonna go ahead and really get the grease off this thing so I can see what I got. So I need to point out that this is probably some pretty toxic stuff here, so you don't want to get it all over you. You definitely don't want to get it in your eyes, breathe it, and any of that good stuff. So, but it'll clean stuff for sure. So 4 little slots here. They were just covered in grease. That means we take this wrench here, and it's going to fit in those slots right there. So the next step in this process is going to be to remove the disc brake caliper so we can get the rotor and hub off. And this is different. I'm wearing different clothes. Everything's different. So here's the deal. Editing, I realized that I'm trying to make 3 videos out of this. Otherwise, it's going to be like a 2-hour video. So we got the wheel bearing video, the spindle bearing video, and the brake video. So we're going to put the brake portion into its own video. So be sure and check that out. And that'll be in a separate video. So right now we're going to go back to the wheel bearings. Okay, so I got them off. You see, that shouldn't have that much play in it, I don't think. You can see that thing. Can you see that it has that play in it? I just don't think it should have that, so which indicates to me the bearings are bad. But next step is to take this lock nut off, so let's get busy with it. Okay, so I got the special tool here, and these little notches fit in the slots here. And you're supposed to put pressure on it and loosen it up. So let's just see what happens. Let's just keep constant pressure on it. Now, bear in mind, I learned all this from my handy dandy Haynes manual, so not really sure there's something I'm missing here, because this thing's getting tight all of a sudden. It doesn't want to come off. I don't know if there's a snap ring or what. Let's clean it up a little more and see what we can figure out. Okay, so as you can see, there's a little C-clip that goes on the groove right here that prevents this thing from coming all the way out. You might want to be really careful when you take that out loose and make sure you have something here to catch it, because mine went flying in the grass and it could have been a disaster. Thankfully, I was able to find it. So let's take this the rest of the way off now. There it comes. Okay, so and okay, you got a washer here with splines in it. Okay, so we'll clean that up. Got to put the stuff back together in the same order as it came apart, which is really important. Then this lock nut comes off, and now we've got this spline here, so it's got a groove in it here. You can see the notch here. You see the notch at the bottom, so it goes in a groove right here, so you're not going to get that lost, so that's good. We'll put that over here like so. We'll clean those up later. Should be able to just pull this off now and take that wheel bearing out right there. There's the old wheel bearing. Can't really tell that it looks worn, but it could have just been neat adjustment, but we're going to go ahead and replace it anyway. So look at that bearing inside there. I don't know if, let me show you that. That is shot. I don't know if you can see that, but you see there, supposed to be some nice, neat bearings, and they're just completely disorganized. So not a good thing. Hopefully we'll be able to get this thing off of there. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but this inner bearing is totally jacked up. I want to try to get this thing off of here. You can see the pins right there. So it's not a good thing. We're gonna keep working with it. There we go. Wow. Okay. I would say that bearing needed replacing. Now the trick is to get it out. They make bearing pullers and all this different thing. This one is beat up so badly, I think what I'm going to try to do is just drive it out with a punch, if I can. You know, this is the race. I got to get the race out too, but first we'll get the punch. We'll try that. That bearing is shot all to pieces. Let's see if we can knock it out of there. Okay, so there's what's left of the bearing. Wow. And now you just got to get the races out. The seals and the races got to come out. So let me see what I can figure out on that one. All right, it's moving a little bit. If you can see inside there, the bearing race is actually the part the bearing rides on, and then it's got a seal on the outside of that, a grease seal, which I think just came out with what was left of the bearing, and this is just coming out here slowly but surely. Just go around, some kind of punch. Just take your time. This is kind of like redneck mechanic hour here. Kind of improvised punch here. We're just going around knocking the race out. There we go. And that is the inner race is out. Now, gotta work on the outer. All right, so that is the old wheel bearing and seal out. So when I pulled the rotors off, I noticed the brake pads were bad. On the other side, one of the studs is broken on the rotor. It looked a little bit thin. Long story short, I just went ahead and bought 2 new rotors. They're like 45 bucks a piece. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I don't know how long it's been since these things been serviced or whatever, and they just weren't looking really good. So I just bought new rotors. So we'll put those on. I'm going to swap you down here now. We'll put the bearings in the rotors, and we'll get them on here. It shouldn't be a big deal, hopefully, because it's getting dark. Okay, so here's the new rotor, and what else we're going to need? You're going to need a couple of bearings. I've actually got 2 different brands because it came from 2 different places. I wound up having to go to several places because nobody had enough. So I've actually got 2 Timken bearings and 2 Napa bearings. So instead of putting both Timken on one side and both Napa on the other, I want to put like both Timken on the interior inside and both Napa on the outside, whatever case may be. Just that way, kind of keep it balanced out. And then we're also going to have to put inner seals. So you notice the bearings come with the races, which is the part the bearing rides in here. You'll also notice these races are already installed on these rotors or hubs. So that's cool. That's one less step I have to do. So go ahead and flip this thing over. We'll put the bearing and then the seal in. First thing I want to do is grease the bearing. Again, we pack it, and I'll show you about that. And then when all that's done, we're going to make sure we clean this really well with brake cleaner, because the last thing you want on your brakes is some grease. So without much further rambling, let's go ahead and pack these bearings, get all greasy, and then we'll put them in and stick this thing on. Okay, got some grease, good old high temperature bearing grease. So they make these fancy tools that you can use to put the bearing in and squeeze grease in it. Here's how I always did it. You just take you some grease, put it in the palm of your hand like so. Take this bearing like so, and then you just kind of chunk it off. And the goal is you're packing the grease up inside here, all up in there. And if you just keep doing this, pretty soon, I'll show you what I mean, but it starts coming out the top up here. You see it coming out the top up there, then it's full. And it really, you know, you just got to go ahead and get in your mind, you're going to get nasty. And that's the way it is. You see it kind of squirting up between there now, up in here? That's what you're looking for. Just when it starts squirting up between the bearings themselves, it's getting full. You can see it kind of, if I can get my finger right, you can see it in the camera right down there. So that's what you're trying to do. Just get this thing packed up. So well, let's keep on packing. Okay, so we got the bearings all greased up and packed now. Next step is going to be to put them into the rotor or the hub. Okay, so I decided to put the Timken bearings, which I think might be better, on the inner, because it'd be harder to change if I ever had to change them. But trying to keep from getting too much grease on this thing now. Get my hands too greasy because I don't want to get grease on the rotor itself. So I'm going to put these things in where they go, and they just ride in there. And really what's going to keep them in place is, once everything's put together, the pressure of the, you know, the tightening of the outer nut. So well, we do need to put a oil seal, grease seal in, and that's just going to be one that's just going to tap in here. And let's see. And there's a couple of different seals, by the way. If you have a Bronco this year model, I'm sorry, man, because they changed a lot of stuff in mid-year, right in the mid-year of 1988, as I'm finding out. So the goal is going to be to just tap this in gently all the way around until it starts seating. And there's probably a fancier way to do this, but it's the way I've always done it. It seems to work okay. You just kind of tap it down until it's seated, and all it's going to do is just keep, it's going to slide up over the spindle, and this rubber seal is just going to keep the oil or the grease or whatever in. So the next step is going to be to take the old brake cleaner and shoot that thing one time and really make sure it's good and dry and clean of all grease, because you just don't want grease on your brakes. I think that should go without saying. So very next step is going to be to put it onto the spindle. So let's take a look at that. All right, so the next step is going to be to put the hub, rotor, whatever you want to call it, onto the spindle, and that's going to be just like so, and slide right up on there. You see the bearings on there. And then we're going to take the other bearing and we're going to put it in, and I guess I'm just going to get a little grease on my hands and it'll be okay. It will wipe off. We're going to put this bearing in like so, kind of raise up on this and just kind of push it into place. Okay, so the next step, I cleaned these up as best I could. Still pretty grungy in there, but that's what we're going to deal with. First thing I'm going to do is put this little retainer, whatever you call it, thingy here, into the slot and push it back. And that's actually what holds the bearing and all that in. Then we're going to take the ratcheting nut here and go ahead and get it started. It's a pain in the neck's what it is, but we're going to get it. Put the wrench on here like so. Maybe that'll give us enough purchase to get it started. Turn it backwards so we can keep from cross threading. Got to get it threaded. These are kind of fine threads here, so there we go. Got to hold your mouth right. We're going to tighten that down, and it's going to ratchet, so it's easy to tighten. You have to push it when you untighten it. So There's a torque setting, which I have a 3/8 torque wrench. Is not good. I need a 1/2 inch. That ain't good. So we're just going to use what we got. Heck with it. And it says to tighten it down to 70 pounds and then back it off 90 degrees. We're going to take this thing and we're going to tighten it down. 70 pounds is pretty stinking tight. I'll spin the wheel to seat the washer. Let's see. Pretty tight now. Now, I'm going to back it off 90 degrees, which is a 1/4 of a turn. We'll check it when we put the tire back on and make sure it doesn't have a lot of wobble in it. But the last thing to do in these wheel bearings is actually just reach down and pull the spline out a little further. We've got a tooth washer that goes on, and then this will pop in like so. All right, well that is 2 new wheel bearings on the F-150. This is a Dana 44 front end, so we're gonna put it all back together before it gets dark here, and hopefully start on the other side. We've got to get this caliper back on now. Okay, we're finishing this up by flashlight. Next step is going to be to put the outer hub on, make sure it's going to work, and then put the wheel back on. Next step is going to be get this thing on the road. First, we got to do the other side. Okay, so that's going to wrap up the wheel bearing portion of this little mini series within a series of the Bronco bug out project. This actually is going to be 3 videos in this little compilation. Did the wheel bearings, the spindle bearings, and the front brakes. So be sure and check out the other 2 videos if you're interested in the spindle bearings and or front brakes. And just a quick teaser about what we got coming up. We've got some, we've got a high lift jack. We got a high lift toolkit coming up. We've got some cool stuff coming up, I think. So we're going to take a look at some more quick repairs and maybe talk a little bit about, oh, we got some communications gear coming up too. I think you'll like that one. So anyway, I hope it's been helpful. As always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for clicking that thumbs up, for sharing this video with millions of people, for watching all those ads. And thanks a lot for doing all your Amazon shopping through the Survival on Purpose links. I really appreciate the support. Once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident. So be prepared. See you next time. Yep, got some on me. I gotta tell you, it's a lot easier to do this and not film it, but because we never had one of them fancy bearing packer things. Keeps getting better and better. Harbor Freight, I'm coming your way.